Hello, and welcome to this episode of Crossover Crisis with Crystal and Colton. I'm Crystal.
I'm cold.
And in this episode, we are covering Spider-Man No Way Home. Because
Mm-hmm.
the Blu-ray dropped uh, last week, and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is about to come out, which this leads right into that. You good with your microphone over there?
Yeah, I'm not used to having a microphone right in my face again, so I'm just gonna be punching it. So I'm just gonna my hands like.
So, for our video audience, would you care to explain your change of scenery here?
Oh, I am currently in Colorado, hanging out with a couple of friends from my hometown, and they moved out here last year, so we're just kind of vibing, hanging out. Got to do some hiking and driving around. Went to the sand dunes over the weekend. We left at like 7 p.m. and got there at like 11 o'clock at night, and it was super cool. We were going down this highway known as the Cosmic Highway, and there's supposed to be like tons of UFO sightings there. So that
Hmm.
was kind of fun, creeping ourselves out and stuff like that. And then we slept in our car and we woke up and got to the top of the sand dune by like 9:30, 10 o'clock. And it was super cool watching like the sun come up over the mountains, over this like massive valley and over these like dunes and stuff. So yeah, I've been in Colorado. Sorry,
That
but it's been super
yeah,
fun.
no, that sounds awesome. That's probably way more interesting than what I've got going on. I've just been watching a bunch of stuff.
Big saw Sonic 2.
I saw Sonic 2 twice. It's it's really
Sonic 2
good.
too.
It's so good.
Favorite
Just
part?
I mean, I couldn't tell you that without spoiling it for you.
Ah, dang it.
But there's a couple things in the movie that are just very exciting if you're a huge Sonic fan.
Hell yeah.
So,
What else have you been up to?
um, I've watched the rest of OKKO, which we covered an episode of last week, and we'll probably come back to cover the rest of those crossovers. 'Cause
Works for me. I love that show.
they had like one each season, so that's like two more to cover.
Cool.
Um, but yeah, I really liked it. Um, the finale actually had me like straight up sobbing a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, but it's good. Very good show. I really enjoy. Ooh, pardon me. I really enjoy the characters a lot and all that stuff. So
Yep. Yeah, no, I just finished the first season, and then the people that I'm staying with right now, I got them hooked on it too. So we've been rewatching the first season and stuff. Yeah, having a good time with it.
that's awesome. That's awesome. And then the other big one for me is they announced Kingdom Hearts 4.
Yep, I saw that.
Oh my
So we
god.
gonna add more to the Kingdom Hearts list.
Right. So, for those of you who don't know, we Colton and I had an older podcast together where we kind of just it was a lot less structured. It was kind of just we talked about whatever we wanted to,
Mhm.
and we did an episode where I explained the entire Kingdom Hearts lore to him, and I might actually like try to drop that at some point on the YouTube channel, get a video version of that out.
Heck yeah.
Um, just capitalize on the hype a little bit, and we've talked about it, so maybe just make that available.
I still have no idea what's going on.
um, but yes, there's a lot of new stuff just from that trailer alone. That like so I won't spend too long on this because we're here for Spider-Man, and we will cover all the Kingdom Hearts games on this podcast at some point because
Heck yeah.
why wouldn't we?
Mhm.
But remember how I said like at the end of 3 and like the DLC and stuff, Sora like disappeared and everyone's looking
Mhm.
for him. Okay, so they let us believe that for a while. It turns out he's straight up dead. So he's straight up dead, and this world he's in is basically the equivalent of an afterlife for him. Um,
What the hell?
I said he went into a fictional world, the fictional world of Virum Rex. Well, it turns out, and this wasn't even in the trailer. This was just mentioned in like an interview by the director. He said within Quadratum, the fictional world, Kingdom Hearts will exist as fiction, which is like that. Like, do you imagine like going somewhere and your entire existence
There's
exists
a lot.
as a fictional property.
Yeah. Yep.
First of all, it wouldn't be very interesting if that
Yeah.
happened to me. Like, why would anyone watch this show or whatever? um, but yeah, so that's nuts. And then the very end of the trailer, we've got Donald and Goofy, seemingly like going to Hades for help. So it seems that maybe they figured out he's dead, and they're trying to figure out how they can get to him.
Get him back.
Which also means, you know, that whole theme and everything. This would be the perfect game to put a Coco world in. I love Coco. You've seen Coco, right?
Yep.
I love that movie. I think that's the best Pixar movie.
It is a good one.
Although Soul got pretty up there when that came out.
Yeah.
Turning Red's very good, but that could just be a recency bias for me. But I did really like Turning Red a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's all the big stuff lately for me. So I guess we get into some of the next segment here. Talking about how do we feel about, you know, these older Spider-Man movies, you know, came before it, because we've got a 3-way crossover this time. MCU Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. Let's start with MCU Spider-Man, because that's, you know, the universe that film takes place in.
I like Tom Holland.
Yeah.
I like where his character ended up at the end. I don't know if we can say that yet, but
maybe when we get to this actual movie, we'll talk about that a bit more. But
yeah, no, I really like Tom's portrayal of Spider-Man. What about you?
I do too. I love that we've really watched him grow up. You know, you go back to the Civil War and Homecoming, and he's very, very young, and then you get the arc over this trilogy, and you see that he comes into his own as Spider-Man, and you know that's there's a lot of complaints about those earlier movies. That's like, oh, he relies too much on Iron Man or whatever, and it's like, even from that moment, I was like, I knew that's the point. The point is his arc is going to lead into, and I said that for years, and people are like, no, it's just bad. I'm like, no, you get him to that point, and the arc is, and here we are today, and I was right.
And you're right. Yep. That's the lesson, people.
Right. Always listen to Crystal. Don't always listen to Crystal. I say a lot of stupid shit.
We have all said stupid shit.
But yeah, Homecoming and Far From Home, I love both of those movies. I think they're some of the best villains we've seen in the MCU portrayed in those movies, with Michael Keaton's Vulture and Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio. Just incredible portrayals of those characters.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's amazing that we even have not just this film, but Spider-Man in the MCU with all the rights issues and
yeah,
all of that going around.
That's a doozy.
And you know, it's still not perfect because Sony's pushing out their whole other stuff. And yeah, I saw Morbius. It's
really good, isn't it?
Oh yeah, Morbius sweet.
It's so good.
First movie to make $1 billion.
Bingo.
Oh man, you know, I just loved when he morbed all over those guys.
Oh my god.
It was incredible. Peak cinema. No, it's awful. It's a fucking terrible movie. And you know, my real quick review on that is Matt Smith. I was genuinely impressed by. I was genuinely impressed that he was able to fake any sort of chemistry with Jared Leto there. Because Jared Leto was giving him nothing to work with.
I mean, Jared Leto pretty much gives everybody nothing to work with.
Right. Anyway, I do like the Venom movies though, so it's like, I don't know. Is Morbius the problem, or is it that Sony's whole idea of trying to do their own thing a problem? Did they just get lucky with Venom, or
I think they might have just got lucky.
I guess we really have to see with Craven and Madam Web, huh?
Yeah.
God, how the fuck is Madam Web leading the movie? She sits there and looks at stuff. That's her thing. Anyway, I feel like we've gotten a little off track here. Reviewing the wrong universes. Although, you know what? No, because Venom appears in the movie, so I think,
True.
we could cover that real quick.
A little bit of leeway there.
Yeah. But yeah, Tobey Maguire though, the one who started it all, except he didn't because he like Nicholas Hammond on TV and stuff. But
the
first Spider-Man movie to be
mainstream
made as a movie.
Yeah,
because you had that thing there. It was like a couple episodes of the show they put together and release as a movie or whatever. Anyway, Tobey Maguire, great stuff. Sam Raimi, great director. Really excited to see him rejoin the Marvel world with Doctor Strange.
I heard about that.
That's really cool that we're getting and you look at the trailers for Doctor Strange and like that is so Sam Raimi. He's really put his spin on that. I'm just excited for everything got coming up now on the movie side of stuff because you see the Thor trailer?
I have not yet. I was gonna watch it with my buddy, and he slept us in. So. And then I completely forgot about it until you just brought it up.
God, that looks just real great too.
Does it?
Mm-hmm.
Dang it.
But yeah, those three movies, the first two were really good. The third one could have done a little better, but here actually I got right next to me. I got really into well, not really into. I got really curious about the PSP's like video thing that they had. They released like a bunch of movies on like the tiny PSP discs.
Huh.
And like a ton of them, and it was not very successful, but there are like hundreds of these. And so I just for fun I was like, why don't I just like get some of these, look at them, just see we could see. And
oh my god,
I got Spider-Man 3 right here for UMD video. And actually, I'll give it this: the inside cover actually looks so sick with that.
It is actually pretty sick
the way they laid that out. But yeah, there's Spider-Man 3 on that tiny disc there.
Oh, that is funny. I have not seen a PSP or a PSP game in a minute.
Yeah. But it's just they're this strange oddity, and I got a few of them. The only other one I looked at was a SpongeBob one, the SpongeBob episodes, and I noticed with this they changed the aspect ratio. So the PSP has like a very unique aspect ratio. Like it's not 16:9. It's slightly shorter than a 16:9. But even then, that's not CinemaScope aspect ratio, which is what Spider-Man 2 and 3 were shot in. Spider-Man 1, well, not shot, but released in. They usually shot wider than they released. But Spider-Man 1 had a 16:9, but 2 and 3 were CinemaScope. And PSP's version of the movie is fit within a PSP screen. There's no black bars anywhere on it. So it's those sides have been cropped off, which is very, very strange.
That is.
But it's the same, I guess, in concept, it's the same as like a TV edit. So, which I don't really understand like why TVs do that. I understood it when it was like 4:3 was the norm aspect ratio. You're like, okay, you put something in CinemaScope, that's gonna be like giant black bars. But I'm fine watching with some small black bars at the top and bottom if I can see the entire thing that's meant to be seen there. Hey, that's tangent number 2 for us.
That's
now.
funny though that you have that.
But yeah,
that is awesome actually.
Yeah, I guess that's another thing I got since the last one we did. But I just got curious about it. Anyway, yeah, I've also got The Matrix, the Simpsons movie, Sky High.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Yeah. Sky High.
yeah. Um, but anyway, Tobey Maguire, I think, gives a really good performance in those movies.
Hmm.
Spider-Man 2 is just it's it's just one of the best movies.
Yeah.
It's an incredible film. And Sam Raimi just really like put his entire like vision into those. Three, we had a lot of studio interference. Back to maybe why it's not as good as the other
Not as good
two.
as the others.
But that's just something you don't get anymore. These
Mhm.
big blockbuster movies, and even as a huge MCU fan, and we're here to talk about Spider-Man No Way Home, but I can't look at No Way Home and be like, oh yeah, John Watts directed this. He has his style on it, because he doesn't. And you know that's that's something I love, but the absence of it isn't going to make me hate a film.
Yeah.
Spider-Man No Way Home is one of my favorite movies, of all time.
Hmm.
But I'm really excited that it looks like we're getting back into like director-driven blockbusters. We had, James Gunn with the Suicide Squad, Matt Reeves with the Batman, Sam
Hmm.
Raimi, coming back with Doctor Strange, and it looks very Sam Raimi.
Yep.
And I really hope that's a trend that we keep going with in Hollywood, because it it lets everything stand out from each other more.
Yeah.
And also it's better to watch.
Yeah, when they put a little bit more character into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, you know, I love the story told over those three films. There's some major arcs told over the whole trilogy, especially with Harry, James
Hmm.
Franco's Harry. Um, and wanting revenge and all of that. Um, Willem Dafoe, Alfred Molina, some great performances from the two of them
Yep.
in those movies. The big the big issue that I do take with those movies is Mary Jane. And it's maybe not so
Fair.
much the same problems that everyone else has with her. I don't think she's like really like annoying on screen or anything.
Hmm.
But in every movie in that trilogy, she cheats on someone. Every
That is
single one of
true.
them, she cheats on someone.
Holy shit. Why would they do that?
Yeah. And so, if there
Bad vibe.
is if there is a Spider-Man 4, crossing all my fingers here, Spider-Man 4 with Tobey Maguire, um just let Peter and MJ just have a healthy relationship for once.
Yeah. Yeah, they've had to fight
um
for that for 3 movies now.
yeah, and I would also just love to see I'd love to see their daughter. That'd be like the perfect place to do it. To do Mayday Parker,
Hmm.
and maybe even you do Spider-Man 4, you close out like Toby's stuff and everything, and then you want to keep that universe going. Hey, you could do a Spider-Girl movie,
Yeah.
and then you're diversifying the Spider content you have out there, and okay, you're introducing a brand new Spider person. Without taking away that Tom Holland's is still there, and this is what people want. And people want movies with different spider people leading them. They don't want
Hmm.
Morbius. You
No.
know, they want
Spider-Verse should have been like a big indicator of that
yeah,
too.
they
They
want
should have just played into that.
Spider-Man Noir. They want Spider-Man 2099.
Hmm.
These unique takes on okay, what is it to be Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Um, or a Spider Person in the case of Spider Girl here. Um, so yeah, um, I grew up with those movies, and I remember seeing Spider-Man 3 opening weekend at like the drive-in, which I still love to go to the drive-in. We do that at least once a summer when it's open.
It's good fun.
great. It's just a good experience.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and then you get that planned Spider-Man 4, and then that kind of just all fades away, and 5 years later you've got the Amazing Spider-Man, which bit of a retread. And I think that's something I've appreciated about the MCU Spider-Man movies is that they're like, okay, we've seen this before. We don't need to see the spider bite. We don't need to see Uncle Ben get shot.
Yep.
Which now leads to people like, oh, there's no Uncle Ben, and it's like Uncle
You wanted
Ben,
different. We gave you different, and
yeah,
now you're complaining.
like
Come
Uncle
on.
Ben was clearly there at some
Hmm.
point, and I'm wondering if all these complaints are why we're even getting freshman year in the first place. That they're like,
Yeah.
fine, we'll show you the origin, even though you've seen it already.
Hmm.
Um, which that's interesting. I wonder what kind of villains we'll see in there because it can't be anything too major because I feel like it's important that Vulture was his first big villain.
Yeah.
So you need to like do like smaller scale stuff for him. You know, if you have any sort of like actual like villain beyond just robbers, you gotta be very careful with which ones you pick.
Yeah.
Maybe something like Hammerhead wouldn't be too bad, like some mob boss, something. Um, but I don't know. Tombstone, maybe just these smaller level characters.
Baddies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. Anyway, I tried to like do like this nice segue into talking about Amazing Spider-Man, but then I went on another tangent. We like skipped
It
over it.
happens.
It does
It's all
happen. It's
Spider-Man.
a conversation. We're just, it flows how it flows. But yes, Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield. He was such a great actor that really got just the short end of the stick, especially on that second one.
Yeah.
Um,
Big time.
I really liked the first movie. I still hold by that. I think the first movie is a really good Spider-Man movie.
Hmm.
Um, it took its own tone. I will say, occasionally it does suffer from some tonal dissonance where it's Spider-Man. You want him to crack jokes. You want him to, be funny, and then all of a
Hmm.
sudden he gets super serious. I think it's most obvious in that the car thief scene where he's like joking around with the car thief and webbing him up, and then all of a sudden
Hmm.
it just cuts and he's like checking for the tattoo or whatever. Which that never gets resolved. He never finds Uncle Ben's killer. He starts going after the lizard, and that just gets dropped.
It's for another day.
But it wasn't. It never came
Yep.
back.
Yep.
Um, so I that's probably my biggest complaint about the movie is why set up that whole there's a whole montage of him looking for Uncle Ben's killer, and there's
Yeah.
no payoff for that subplot at
Hmm.
all. Which in the inverse, I'd say maybe Toby's Peter should have had to look for him a bit more, and not have had him just immediately found him or whatever,
Yeah.
and then been responsible for his death. Um, but Amazing Spider-Man 2, horrible, horrible film.
Nah,
I
it's
see people that
arguably the best
like
of all of them.
I see people that like 2 more than the first one, and I'm like, how? Where I respect your opinion, but how did you come to this conclusion?
Yeah, it has its moments, but it's nowhere near as good as the
Yeah,
first one.
it has some great moments, but it's so overstuffed with all these just different plot lines that have nothing to do with each other. And I think for the longest time, that's why people, you see Spider-Man 3, you see Amazing Spider-Man 2, and people's takeaway is, oh, they have too many villains. And that's not really it. You can have a lot of villains, you just need to make them part of the same plot line. And that's
Hmm.
where Homecoming and No Way Home both succeed. Homecoming has like 5 villains, but they're
Yeah.
all related to the same thing. They're all working with Vulture, they're all or doing some sort of deal with him or whatever. And then No Way Home, you come back to with 5 villains again, but they're all part of the same. Oh, Peter pulled them in from the multiverse and wants to save them.
Hmm.
You know, Then you look at Amazing Spider-Man 2, it's like, oh, well, Harry's, getting his father's disease, but Electro hates Spider-Man because he didn't wish him happy birthday. And then Rhino just is there.
Which,
And
I
that's the
love Rhino
problem.
too. That makes me sad.
That's the real problem. They have nothing to do with each other.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think that's all. I think that covers all my feelings about the various Spider-Man movie franchises.
Hmm.
Unless you had something else you wanted to drop, I'd say we can get into our actual review of the movie.
No, I'm just very nostalgic for the Tobey Maguire
Of
Spider-Man,
course.
just like you said, because grew up with it and stuff. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's always fun going back and rewatching it and whatnot. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'd agree with most of your points there.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, this is not going to be our first review of No Way Home, but
Nope.
it is going to be our first one to be released because we, you know, and a little behind the scenes here when we were doing Awkward Pals, we kind of, I kind of hit a point where I just got overwhelmed with things and couldn't keep up. But we still met up and recorded, and we had several episodes we recorded that I just never got to and edited and
Hmm.
released. Um, but here we are. Here we are getting our chance to finally put out a discussion on this movie. 4 months later. So
Yep.
it feels so much longer ago than that. It
Yeah.
really does.
Oh my God. Yeah. What
But
the hell?
it's only been 4 months, 4.5, really.
Sheesh.
Um, but yeah. So and we even already started because it's really hard to do that conversation without bringing it back into how it all comes into No Way Home.
Exactly.
Because they are, and I think that's the genius of the movie is they really were so true to those franchises and the world building that had already happened in them.
Yeah.
Um, Now, did you get a chance to rewatch the movie before we did our
I I
before we
had
got
been
in here?
pretty busy being out and going out and doing Colorado shit.
No,
I'm sorry.
that's fair enough. That's fair enough. I was
However,
just
I
wondering.
remember it like very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
All
genuinely
right.
love this movie.
It's phenomenal. It's a great. It's just as a fan of Spider-Man, like this is just what I've always wanted.
Hmm.
Um. So we begin right where Far From Home leaves off. Mysterio reveals Peter Parker's identity to the world, and we get just a really thrilling sequence of Peter trying to escape the crowd, get home, panic about what's going on. He gets there, he's trying to keep it from Aunt May and Happy,
Hmm.
and who are going through their own whole thing there. Um, and it's just like I remember like the first time I watched it, I was just like vibrating intensely because I was just so excited to be like, okay,
Yeah,
how's this gonna play out? How's this? Um, and so obviously that not able to keep it from them. We get the whole trouble with the law, and then we get the incredible Charlie Cox as Daredevil returning.
gotta love that guy.
Gotta love it. Um, God, if you have not seen Daredevil, it's great. It's on Disney Plus now.
I know, I
So,
know. I need to get to it. I need to. And didn't they just say that like they're keeping the Defenders too? Wasn't this
um,
like last week or something?
I mean, it's all there. It's all on Disney Plus. All those Defenders shows,
I
the
thought
the
they said
Defenders
something
saga,
about it.
as they put it.
I thought they said that it was going to be like canon or something like that.
It
Did I
like
misread that?
it's still like unknown at this
Okay.
point. I don't even know if Marvel themselves knows yet if they want to. I hope they do because they were intended to be, and certainly at the time they were saying it was, and not just the people on the TV side of things, but Kevin Feige was saying that at the time.
Hmm.
But you know, I don't know. I really hope so. I think
Yeah.
it's pretty likely that they will.
Yeah.
But I also think it may be more of like a soft like, oh yeah, it happened, but you don't need to see it.
Yeah.
Um,
That would make sense.
yeah. But as long as they don't flat out contradict anything, I'm gonna keep acting as if it's canon.
Fair enough.
So we get, that's really exciting. Just as a fan of all that stuff, and I hope, maybe we can see them suit up together in the future, take on the Kingpin. Seems like a great villain to put in going forward.
Heck yeah.
And he's got to still be alive. I know he had that whole thing in Hawkeye, but like literally the thing that's like taken right from in the comics, he survives that.
Yeah.
So there's no reason for him not to. But yeah, my mind it keeps going blank on stuff.
We are talking about how Spidey is trying to cover it up from Happy and Aunt May that his identity just got revealed.
Right.
I like that scene a lot too, how he's sitting there floating around the room and dragging the curtains down and all that stuff, trying to just like hide it as best as possible.
It's some exciting stuff to see. Just every little motion, they really like showed his panic very well.
He was like a panicked kid, because I think sometimes, like I think we've said this before, maybe in another podcast or something, but sometimes he acts a little older than his age, and I think that was a good scene to be like, oh yeah, he's still a kid. He can still panic sometimes.
And then this all leads to him eventually coming to Doctor Strange for help.
Yeah.
Some very fun reveals there, with Doctor Strange isn't the Sorcerer Supreme anymore, and that's certainly something we'll probably see much more of in Multiverse of Madness.
Wong's just going off and doing Wong stuff.
Yeah, Wong is he's everywhere nowadays. Loved him popping up in Shang-Chi.
I hope they continue to do that. I hope that's just his thing, as he just becomes cameo man in every movie for fun.
But yeah, so we get, Strange does a spell for him, and now we are ready to enter crossover mode. The reason we're talking about this today. Doc Ock is our first character to come in, and that's just a great fight between
what an entrance,
between Tom Holland and Tom Holland's Peter, I should say, not the actual Tom Holland,
just Tom Holland.
Tom Holland. But between Tom Holland's Spider-Man and Doc Ock, the miscommunication, where Doc Ock thinks that he's fighting the Spider-Man from his world. I still get chills when he goes, I should have killed your little girlfriend when I had the chance. And Peter gets pissed. That's great. I think that's a very strong indicator of where their relationship is in this film, which is another great thing to keep it contained within this universe outside the crossover portion. Their relationship is amazing in this film, and the growth of that. Zendaya she's killing it.
I love her. She's so good.
Killing it. MJ, she's great on Euphoria. I still need to finish season 2. I was so excited for season 2, and then I watched the first episode when it came out, and I haven't watched anything else since.
That sometimes happens, though.
And
Life gets busy.
I really need to. And I've been waiting for it forever, like since I saw season 1. And they did those specials, and I was like, oh man, these specials are great. I want to see season 2. And then season 2 is finally here, and I was like, I'll watch it later.
Put it on the back burner.
Right. Even after I watched the first episode, which was so exciting. Like there was some great stuff in there. But yeah. I just remembered it was fun because I'd it'd be Sunday night, I'd be looking at Twitter and I'd see what's trending, and I'm like, oh, Euphoria's on right now. Euphoria just dropped.
Still just wouldn't watch it.
And I'd see the trend be like, Rue, no, and I'd be like, I bet Rue's gonna do something in this episode. Anyway, great fight sequence. Love seeing the nanobots get integrated with the tentacles, and that gives Peter control over them. Alfred Molina is just a treat to watch, though, on
Yes,
screen.
for real
The
though.
way he embodies his characters, especially Doc Ock, obviously, but even like some stupid stuff. Like there's like this comedy sketch I love called Children's Theater Critic with Alfred Molina. Have you seen that?
I have not.
It was like a Funny or Die sketch, I think, where Alfred Molina is like he's a theater critic, but for children's theater, and he like comes up on stage and he just starts
Oh God.
berating these children about how
Oh
horrible their
no.
performances were.
Oh
And it's
no. That is funny.
I'll have to show
Yeah.
that to you when we get done here because it's
Heck yeah.
hilarious. But and like but he really puts in like his full performance into just something like that.
hmm
But that fight concludes and we get the Green Goblin for just a few seconds before we're pulled away from the action, which that was such an interesting way to do it too, because just when the portal comes across the screen like that, and it's just Peter, we're just in Peter's face for that one, and I'm just kind of like, wait, what just happened? Like even though you can see Doctor Strange's portal come across, so it has something to do with that. You're like, wait, why? Why are we leaving?
Yeah.
And then we find out, Doctor Strange has captured the lizard, and he's a little battle scarred from that. He's got scratches all over, so that was not an easy fight for him. Kind of wish we could have seen it. Just because I think that's an opportunity that a few of these team up movies miss, where they like have like the rogues gallery from one character, but don't really have this other character fight them that much. Lizard isn't a Doctor Strange villain. That's not something you'd get to see very often. So I wish they had taken that opportunity and actually shown us that fight.
Even if it was just like a flashback or something, and Tom Holland Spider-Man was like, "You look a little like banged up there. What happened?" And just do like a little 3 or 4 second thing of him fighting Lizard.
Homecoming could have given us like a quick fight between Iron Man and Vulture. I think when he comes to help like put the ferry back together, he could have like tried to catch Vulture before he left and like fails to do so or something. Just a quick, like I'm talking like 30 seconds, just a little scuffle, and then he's like, okay, I gotta go like do the ferry and like let this guy leave. Because the opportunity's right there and you don't take it, and when are you going to get that opportunity again to do it?
Yeah, exactly. Well, not anymore.
Right. Definitely not anymore. So yeah, anyway, this really pulls us into motion now. Peter's going to go look for the other villains that have come through. And from here we get Electro and Sandman, and I loved how they were like really true to Sandman's character arc from Spider-Man 3. Like he wants to help Spider-Man. And even throughout the whole movie, he's not really a villain. He just cares about his own interests. Whatever's going to get him back to his universe with his daughter. Because I noticed like a lot of people get confused about that, where they're like, wait, why did I understand why these characters like turned against Spider-Man, but why did Sandman? And it's like, because Sandman was only there to help cure everyone because he wanted everyone to be able to go back home.
Yeah.
If they're not going to get cured and they're just going to find their own way home, he's going to go with them and take that. And so it kind of really becomes, you get back to the end of the movie and it really becomes, Sandman and Electro are at odds and we never really see them fight, but they're not on the same side in that final battle. They're not working together at any point. They're just both happen to be against the Spider-Men.
Yep.
But also, going back to that Electro fight, it's a fun sequence to watch. The end just of that fight always just cracks me up. I'm just gonna pretend like I'm not standing here naked. I am.
I
am. Jamie Foxx does an incredible job as Electro. So happy for him to get a second chance at that after, Amazing Spider-Man 2 was, well, it was Amazing Spider-Man 2.
It was a movie that
It was
exists.
a movie that exists. Um, the change in the character, even though, it doesn't really make much sense if it's supposed to be right after, I don't care because it's better.
Yeah.
And I just accept it. Um, and it also doesn't make sense why he's even there because he didn't know. He was never told in the movie that Spider-Man is Peter Parker. But who's to say like Harry didn't tell him off screen or something, and he was just like, well, I don't care.
Yeah.
Whatever. There's always some explanation around it.
Yeah.
But I also know that that's just kind of part of, they had to change the plot because Doctor Strange was supposed to come out first, and America Chavez was supposed to be the one to bring in Toby and Andrew, which we'll get to that moment soon. Yeah. But it was like, okay, well, if we're changing the order of the movie, we still want to introduce her in Doctor Strange, so we'll give that to Ned, and we'll get a new explanation for why they're here, and oh well, Electro doesn't really work now anymore. Oh well, whatever.
Yeah.
Because it it's a small thing, and yeah, it can be a little annoying, but you're creating a giant universe based on these comics, and there's way worse plot holes in the comics themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah.
I can excuse
and most people
that.
aren't going to be nitpicking too as much as we are when they watch it.
Right. I can excuse it here.
Yeah. 100%.
But then from there we get our final villain brought in, Green Goblin. But we don't really see the Goblin yet. We see Norman. And his fear of the Goblin, which I thought was really, that's a new spin on the character, because in Spider-Man 1 we get that a little bit, but he's very quick to embrace the Goblin.
Yeah.
Until eventually, like, it's only the Goblin. We don't see Norman anymore after a certain point. Even when you think you do that, nope, that was the Goblin pretending to be Norman to try to trick Peter. And they had a very subtle thing that not only did they do in Spider-Man 1, but they brought back for No Way Home, where Willem Dafoe, his teeth. Willem Dafoe has a natural, some messed up teeth naturally. His natural teeth are a little messed up.
He's got a gap in between his front teeth.
It's got a gap, and like some of them are just crooked and stick out a little bit. And when he is the Goblin, they just look like that. But when he's Norman, he wears some fake teeth that are like very perfect, very straight, no gaps in between, and it's just supposed to be a very subtle, like you're not supposed to notice it, but I mean, once you do every time. But it's just supposed to subtly like signify that something is different, and they did a great job with that. And it was cool to see them do that, bring that back, pay that much attention to it, which again goes back to what I said earlier. I love the respect that this movie has for the previous iterations of the franchise,
for the OGs.
But even then, still, all of this comes through and only serves to further the story of Tom Holland's Spider-Man. We get these character arcs with the others, but at the end of the day, everything works to push his story further, which we see come really to a head when Green Goblin kills Ant-Man. She delivers that classic line, and she's gone. It's done. No more. Very sad. And I still remember I took my friend to see the movie, and he told me after, he was like, at that point I didn't even know like if the movie could still like keep me involved anymore, because the anime was gone. Like you've just taken me like so out of it. I'm too sad. I don't, But then pulled him right back in Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire come right
Spider-Man.
in. Yeah, and Andrew Garfield gives the best Spider-Man performance he has yet in
Yeah.
this
Oh
film.
yeah. By a mile.
All his subtleties, all his little, it's great.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and as great as the moment where Andrew and Toby come in is, and how exciting that is. Really, it's even better when they come and meet Tom, and they all have their discussions about Uncle Ben and Gwen,
Mm-hmm.
and then later on the Statue of Liberty before the fight, just just talk about the differences between them, which I
Spider-Man being
love.
Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm. That's my favorite scene in the movie. Just them sitting around talking about how they're all different from each other.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff. Um, but yeah, I love this movie so much, man. I
Yeah.
really do.
Agreed. I really like the part in the lab too when they're sitting there
Mm-hmm.
and they're like they say Peter like 3 times and
Right.
they keep having to be like like what's
Mm-hmm.
going on here?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
And then like you said, when they're all sitting up there waiting to come in and they're just shooting the shit, and then
Mm-hmm.
that pose they all three do and they all do their own iconic poses. That part was like
Right. Yeah. And then
perfect.
them like all jumping down and swinging together, and then
Yeah,
when Tom like shoots out two webs to like pull both of them forward
and
was
they're all
so
whooping.
cool. Yeah, they're all whooping. Um, but even before that, when they're like not working very well together, and uh, like Tom trips Andrew with his web, and then
Hmm.
Andrew tries to like regain balance and shoots Toby in the face.
Yeah,
Just like that's all great stuff,
that's Spider-Man.
That's
Yeah.
Spider-Man. But yeah. And then you know the movie's got to get sad again. We've ridden this high. We've seen the Spider-Men come together. They save the day, and now here comes the Goblin back in,
Hmm.
and Tom Peter one wants to fucking kill him.
Yeah.
Which just if you're a fan of Spider-Man, like, fuck, man, like
Heavy shit.
you do not. He doesn't do that.
Hmm.
But what this is so smart about is the movie is like, no, this is wrong for him to do. Because you kind of get the issue, and not to suddenly just start shitting on DC here, because I loved the Batman. We just had that, you know.
Hmm.
I love a lot of their stuff, but Batman v Superman, you've got Batman killing people, and if you're a Batman fan, Batman does not kill
That's not
people.
his thing.
But the movie at no point is like, oh yeah, this is out of character for him. This is what he should not be doing. They're just like,
Hmm.
no, yeah, this is him. And so that's where No Way Home, like, it's like you've got Toby earlier in the movie being like, you know, the man who killed my uncle died, and I thought it would make it better, and it did not.
Hmm.
So for him to then be the one to come in and stop Tom from delivering the blow in this fight was so smart.
And the amount of shit that was
Mm-hmm.
said without saying anything, just through the eye contact,
Yeah,
and they're just like jumping back and forth.
very very much in the same way we've got Andrew Garfield saving MJ, which I can't believe
Yeah.
I glossed over a moment ago, because
Yeah, that just kind of happened.
that's an amazing moment. But those are very much both. Those two moments are how these other Spider-Men put their impact on Peter One's life
Oh yeah.
here, preventing him from the mistakes of their life,
Hmm.
or the hardships, I should say. Um, which I think is beautiful that they've been able to save him from that pain.
Yeah.
Um,
100%.
and so, everyone gets to go back home, back to their own universes, at the cost of everyone has to forget who Peter Parker is. in the MCU, at least. I know there's a lot of people who are like, oh, this has got to like affect the other universes too, but how? Like that doesn't even make sense. Why they would? Um, and even when he like tells Strange what to do, he's like, make everyone forget me, not make everyone forget who Peter Parker is everywhere. And it's and people are like, oh, but then wouldn't they still come through? But no, because it overrode the original spell. You can't just recast the same spell because that's like still what's going on. But you do a new spell that's stronger than that. It boom undoes
the OG one.
Is my interpretation of how it works. Again, we're talking about magic here. You can't really put hard, fast rules to magic. It's magic.
Yep.
So, now he's back all on his own, and he's the Spider-Man we've wanted to see. He's reached the end of that arc that the trilogy's been building to. He's the
your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
The broke kid making his own suit. It's and that final swing is so, very bittersweet moment.
It is.
And the whole ending is very bittersweet. You're like, yeah, he's the Spider-Man that his whole arc's been building to this whole time. But at what cost? And it makes me very excited to see him again, see where they take this. I think they're going to bring him much more street level. We're going to get like Kingpin, Scorpion, because they still have that Scorpion payoff to set up. Or that set up to pay off, sorry.
Yeah.
From Homecoming.
The plot hole.
So, we'll see how that goes. We know Vulture's gone. So, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Because, Morbius, it's whole stupid shit. Anyway.
That movie was good.
Yeah, Morbius sweet. One more billion tickets sold.
1 more billion tickets.
Hey, that's the same joke twice. But yeah, love this movie. I'm excited to see what else Spider-Man has in store. But I'm also more relevant to right now. I'm excited to see what Doctor Strange has in store coming up for us. This movie sets that up, and we got that coming in just a couple weeks. And I think unless like something happens, and maybe because of our schedule, the next episode might have to come a few days late, but next episode will be about Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness.
Oh, yeah.
Which I'm telling Colton that's for the first time. So
yeah, I just found this out.
I was considering being like, well, we'd have to like film it like immediately to get it out on time, so maybe something else, and then Doctor Strange. I was like, nah, we'll get, Usually we record these like a week in advance. That's what we've been doing, but next one we'll have to like watch it like Thursday or Friday and then record, and then I have to like work to get this out on Saturday if I even can. But that's what I want to do. So, but just be prepared for it to be a couple days late. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say about the movie. We had a nice long discussion there. Maybe a little one-sided, as a lot of our conversations go. I get very
sorry.
I'm sorry. I get so like into what I'm saying, and I just keep going.
No, you definitely know a lot more about Spider-Man than I do, so it makes sense.
Well, I mean, yeah, I feel like this might be just a running joke on this podcast, but behind me, I just like to set up my background with like my relevant stuff I have.
Is that a Pez dispenser?
And it is a Pez dispenser, and I just noticed that my MJ figure I have here fallen over. Set her back up like that. Oh, here, actually, I want to show you this one. And sorry, listener audience, you will not get full experience here. But this is my Homecoming Spider-Man right here in the jacket. And I have posed him exactly like the
cover.
poster.
Hell yeah.
Angle them a little bit to make it closer.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I've got this one too. This is a really proud piece I have. This is an original. Oh, the reflection is really bad on that. It's an original film strip from Spider-Man 2
Hell yeah.
with Doc
That is
Ock
fucking sick.
breaking into the cafe.
That's awesome.
But I've got the Pez dispenser. I've got that's a flower pot right next to it.
Is that a C
yeah,
soundtrack?
yeah, it's the Into the Spider-Verse soundtrack.
Amazing soundtrack.
Which usually the most copies sold was Miles's face on it. That was a like Target exclusive that had Peter B on it.
Oh, yeah.
Target had like exclusives for like a bunch of the other characters. I think they also had Gwen, which was the one I wanted. I couldn't find. So I went with the Peter B instead.
Oh yeah.
Got my 2 Funko Pops, Spider-Man and Peter. And I'm gonna go back here to grab one last thing. Because this is also really cool, I think. This is an official piece of marketing for the first Spider-Man movie, a Daily Bugle press
That is
pass.
fucking awesome.
Wait, where did I even get this? I think I bought like a comic book like mystery box thing that would have like 10 comics, 1 graphic novel, a toy, a magazine, like just a bunch of different stuff in it. And that was like that was their like miscellaneous item in it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That was a pretty cool thing to have. Anyway, that's my little Spider-Man merch collection.
Hell yeah.
To put us on a tangent here at the end, but
I love the Pez dispenser.
Oh yeah, that one I've had forever. That's an old one.
Yeah.
There's a bunch more right up there off camera.
Just
that you
barely.
Can't see. Actually, not even barely. It's like 3 shelves up. And you can only see one shelf.
Yeah.
Of my whole thing. But here
Maybe it's a little up there.
This might be a bad idea to do, but you kind of see them.
Oh hell yeah! More Pez dispensers
up there,
and
Funko Pops and mini pops and a whole bunch of random shit.
Hell yeah!
Which I do not know what I'm gonna do with all that when I move into my apartment, but
you'll figure it out.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe they'll allow me to mount stuff on the wall, but probably not. Usually apartments don't do that.
Yeah, no.
Anyway, I feel like we're just going, and we've long since finished our main topic of discussion.
Yeah.
So we should probably close this out. But yes, next time we will discuss Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And so, if you're on YouTube, subscribe. If you're on Spotify, follow the podcast or whatever. Or is it still called subscribing on there? I don't know. If you are on YouTube, leave in the comments maybe stuff you want us to cover on the podcast. There's a lot of crossovers out there, and we already have a lot planned, but maybe there's some I just haven't heard of and take a look at. I didn't realize actually. I didn't realize till after I watched it. One of the episodes of OKKO was like a Scooby-Doo crossover. Because it was it was like a crossover with like side characters from one of the movies, like the Ghoul School or whatever. And so I didn't know that it was from that, but but they were like, oh yeah, those are Enid's old school friends.
That's funny.
And I didn't realize until I was like looking at like the crossover episodes page on the wiki. I was like, wait, that one was a crossover episode? But
very subtle.
Anywho, that does it. Us here. So until next time, peace.